New NSW rule for seniors over 60. This is something every retiree and soon-to-be pensioner in Australia needs to hear right now, because it could directly affect your driving rights, benefits, and even your future pension security. And most people have no idea this update is coming until it's too late. Stay with this video till the end, because I'm going to break down exactly what's changing, how it connects to age pension payments, pension updates, and the growing pension crisis in Australia that could impact your monthly income. And if you're new here, don't forget to subscribe. This channel is fully dedicated to seniors, pension news, and real updates that actually matter to you. So subscribing means you won't miss important changes that could affect your life. If you are over 60 years old and you are still driving in New South Wales, you need to stop whatever you are doing right now and pay close attention, because something has changed that could directly affect your ability to stay on the road legally. And most people have absolutely no idea it is happening. This is not a scare tactic. This is not clickbait. This is real. It is happening right now. And the consequences of ignoring it are serious enough that you could lose your license, face heavy fines, or find yourself in a legal situation you never anticipated. So stay with me, because in the next few minutes I'm going to walk you through everything. What the new rule is, why it was introduced, what it means for you personally, how to prepare for it, and what steps you need to take immediately to protect your driving rights. Let's begin with the reality of the situation. For decades, older drivers in New South Wales have operated under a well-known framework. Once you reach the age of 75, you are required to undergo an annual medical assessment to confirm that you are medically fit to drive. That was the threshold most people knew. But the conversation around senior driving has evolved dramatically in recent years, and Transport for NSW, along with the Roads and Maritime Services, have been reviewing, updating, and tightening the rules around aged driver licensing in ways that go well beyond just that annual medical check. The changes affect drivers from the age of 60 onwards in some circumstances, and the rules become increasingly layered and complex the older you get. If you thought you knew what was required of you, there is a very strong chance the landscape has shifted underneath your feet without you even realizing it. Let us talk about why this is happening, because understanding the why helps make the rest of it easier to accept and navigate. Australia has one of the fastest aging populations in the developed world, and New South Wales reflects that trend acutely. According to transport data, drivers over the age of 60 represent a growing segment of the road network, and statistically, the risk profile of driving changes as we age. This is not about prejudice or discrimination against older Australians. It is about the very real physiological changes that happen to all human beings as we grow older. Vision deteriorates. Reaction times slow. Conditions like arthritis can affect how confidently a person can grip a steering wheel or apply the brakes in an emergency. Medications prescribed for age-related conditions can cause drowsiness, dizziness, or impaired coordination. Cognitive changes, even subtle ones, can affect spatial awareness, decision-making speed, and the ability to process multiple things happening simultaneously on a busy road. The authorities are not making these rules to punish seniors. They are making them because the data shows that unmanaged age-related impairment is a genuine risk, both to the driver themselves and to every other person sharing the road. Now, here is where it gets really important. One of the most significant changes you need to understand is around conditional licenses. In New South Wales, a conditional license is a license that comes with restrictions attached. These restrictions can be geographical, meaning you are only permitted to drive within a certain radius of your home, or only to specific destinations like medical appointments or the supermarket. They can be time-based, meaning you are not allowed to drive at night, or during peak hour, or on motorways. They can also be vehicle-based, requiring that you only drive an automatic vehicle or that you have specific vehicle modifications in place. What has changed is the way these conditions are being applied, and more critically, the way non-compliance with these conditions is being enforced. If you are driving on a conditional license and you are found to have breached any one of those conditions, you are not just facing a fine. You could be treated as an unlicensed driver. And driving unlicensed in New South Wales carries penalties that can include fines of thousands of dollars, demerit points, and in some cases, criminal charges. Many senior drivers on conditional licenses have no idea where their boundaries actually sit because the paperwork was completed years ago, and they have simply continued driving as they always did, assuming nothing much had changed. Another layer that is catching many seniors off guard relates to the medical assessment process itself and who is responsible for initiating it. A lot of people assume that if there was a problem, their doctor would tell them. They trust their GP implicitly, and rightly so. But there is a critical distinction here between a GP flagging a concern voluntarily and a GP being legally required to report an issue to the licensing authority. In New South Wales, medical practitioners have a mandatory reporting obligation when they assess a patient as being unfit to drive. This means that if you visit your doctor for something entirely unrelated, a blood pressure check, a knee concern, a prescription renewal, and your doctor happens to notice something that leads them to conclude you may be a risk behind the wheel, they are legally obligated to report that to Transport for NSW. You might leave that appointment thinking everything went fine, and then receive a letter in the mail informing you that your license is under review. This happens to thousands of seniors every year, and the shock of it is profound. Understanding that this reporting mechanism exists is crucial, because it means your driving status can be affected by conversations and assessments you did not even know were evaluating your fitness to drive. The practical implications of losing driving access for someone over 60 cannot be overstated. For many Australians in this age group, driving is not a convenience. It is a lifeline. It is how you get to your GP. It is how you collect your prescriptions. It is how you visit grandchildren who live across town. It is how you maintain the social connections that keep you mentally and emotionally healthy. The research is unambiguous on this. Seniors who lose their independence in mobility experience measurably higher rates of depression, social isolation, and physical decline. This is exactly why it is so important to be proactive rather than reactive. The worst thing you can do is wait until a letter arrives or until something happens on the road. By that point, your choices are severely limited, and the stress of the situation can feel overwhelming. So what should you actually be doing right now? The first and most important thing is to know your current license status in complete detail. Do not assume. Do not go by memory. Dig out your actual license. Look at any correspondence you have received from Transport for NSW, and if you have any doubt whatsoever about what conditions or requirements apply to you, ring the Roads and Maritime Services directly or visit a service center in person. They can tell you exactly what your license says, what conditions are attached, when your next medical review is due, and whether there are any flags or notices on your file. This sounds obvious, but an extraordinary number of seniors are driving right now without knowing the full details of what their license permits. The second thing you need to do is get a comprehensive medical assessment from your GP. Not just your routine checkup, but one where you specifically ask your doctor to evaluate your driving fitness. Ask them to complete what is known as an Austroads Medical Standards Assessment. Austroads is the national body that sets the medical and visual standards for drivers across Australia, and their guidelines are used by all licensing authorities, including those in New South Wales. Your GP should be familiar with this process. If they are not, you can ask to be referred to a specialist, a geriatrician, or an occupational therapist with expertise in driver assessment. Getting this assessment done proactively, before any review is triggered by an outside event, puts you in a position of strength. You know where you stand. You can address any concerns before they become problems. And if the assessment comes back clear, you have documentation that demonstrates your fitness to drive, which is enormously valuable if your license ever comes under review. The third thing, and this is something that many people resist because it feels like an admission of something they are not ready to admit, is to honestly reflect on how your driving has changed in recent years. Not how you feel about driving, how your driving actually is. Have there been near misses that you brushed off? Have passengers gently expressed concern? Have you started avoiding certain roads, certain times of day, certain types of traffic because they feel more overwhelming than they used to? Have you noticed yourself getting confused at intersections, misjudging distances, or reacting more slowly than you feel you should? These are not signs of failure. They are signs of being human. They are signs that every one of us will experience if we live long enough. The question is whether you are acknowledging them honestly, because denial is not a strategy. Denial is how accidents happen, and the entire point of addressing this now, proactively on your own terms, is to give yourself the best possible chance of continuing to drive safely for as long as possible, rather than having that choice taken away from you suddenly and without warning. There is also something called a driving assessment, separate from the medical one, that is worth knowing about. In New South Wales, you can voluntarily request a practical on-road assessment conducted by an occupational therapist who specializes in driver rehabilitation. This is not a test you pass or fail in the traditional sense. It is an evaluation of your actual driving performance in real conditions, and it results in recommendations. Some people come out of it being told they are driving excellently and need no modifications at all. Others are advised on specific adaptations, perhaps a vehicle with a wider mirror, or lessons to refresh certain skills, or a simple adjustment to their route choices. In some cases, the assessment confirms that restrictions are appropriate and helps the person understand and accept them with greater peace of mind. The key point is that this is something you can initiate yourself. You do not have to wait to be sent there by a doctor or a licensing authority. You can make the call today. Let us also talk about what to do if you receive a letter from Transport for NSW informing you that your license is under review or that conditions are being imposed. Many seniors who receive such a letter feel immediately helpless, as if a decision has already been made and there is nothing they can do. That is simply not true. You have rights in this process. You have the right to respond. You have the right to provide additional medical evidence. You have the right to request a review of the decision. In some cases, you can seek an internal review within Transport for NSW, and if you are unsatisfied with that outcome, you can appeal to the appropriate tribunal. None of this is easy, and none of it is guaranteed to succeed, but the point is that receiving that initial letter is not the end of the road. It is an invitation to engage with the process. If you feel overwhelmed, consider reaching out to a community legal service or to an advocacy organization for older Australians, such as National Seniors Australia, or your local council's community services team. These resources exist precisely for moments like this. Now, if you have a family member who is over 60 and watching this, a parent, a grandparent, a sibling, I want to speak directly to you as well. This is one of the most delicate conversations that families face. You can see the signs. You have been in the car with them and felt uneasy. You have heard the stories, but you do not know how to bring it up without causing offense, without damaging the relationship, without making them feel like their independence is under attack. Here is what I would encourage you to remember. The goal is not to take something away from them. The goal is to keep them safe, and to keep others safe, and to help them maintain their mobility and their dignity for as long as it is genuinely safe to do so. Frame it as a conversation, not a confrontation. Suggest the medical assessment and the driving evaluation as proactive, sensible steps, which they are, rather than as evidence that you think they can no longer drive. Come from a place of love and practicality, not fear or frustration, and you are far more likely to be heard. There are also alternatives worth exploring, because for some seniors, the discussion about driving is really a discussion about independence more broadly. In many parts of New South Wales, community transport services are available for seniors who can no longer drive or who are operating under conditional licenses. These are not charity services. They are funded programs designed to maintain the mobility and social participation of older Australians, and they cover everything from medical appointments to shopping trips to social outings. Ride-sharing platforms have also become increasingly accessible and user-friendly for older users. Some councils provide subsidized taxi vouchers. Others have volunteer driver programs. The landscape of mobility options for seniors has improved significantly, and knowing what is available in your area can take a great deal of the anxiety out of the question of what happens if driving becomes restricted. Let me bring this home with the most important thing I want you to take away from everything you have just heard. The rules around senior driving in New South Wales are not going to get simpler. They are going to get more sophisticated, more closely monitored, and more consistently enforced as the population continues to age and as technology continues to give the authorities better tools for identifying risk on the roads. The seniors who navigate this landscape successfully are not the ones who ignore it or fight it from a place of pride. They are the ones who get informed early, who take ownership of their own health and driving fitness, who engage constructively with the medical and licensing systems, and who plan ahead with honesty and pragmatism. That is you. That is what this video is asking you to be. If you are over 60, make the call today. Book the medical assessment. Review your license conditions. Speak to your GP. Have the conversation with your family. And if you found this information useful, if you think someone you know needs to hear it, share this video with them right now. Because this is exactly the kind of thing that gets filed away as, "I'll deal with it later," right up until the moment when later has already arrived.